Just a second, and you're good.
All right. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Krystle White. I am the manager of health equity outcomes for the Gaston County Health Department, a part of DHHS. And again, we are here for another lovely installment of our COVID Town Hall series. Now, for this particular town hall, if you've been following us thus far, you know we kind of dive into different topics related to COVID, whether it's talking about mental wellness related to the impact of COVID, even down to, you know, booster shots and all of those different variants that have been out there and all of that. But this one will be a little bit more of a fun, interactive discussion where we're going to have some of the best experts in the game here with us as panelists to speak about how to have a healthy holiday season. So again, with COVID being present, you know, we all thought by now maybe it would have been gone and we be all back to normal. I don't even know if normal is a word we can use right now when it comes to COVID, right? But one of the biggest things we wanted to make sure is to give you guys some of those tips that are out there as far as celebrating safely. So whether that means making sure that you're doing what you need to social distance, whether that means getting your vaccine, or even to the bigger picture, right, of healthy eating and physical wellness. And so we wanted to do something a little different this time. So we're going to take the first half of our hour and just kind of talk about some of those tips, even provide a little bit of background information for some of the different organizations that all of our lovely panelists are a part of and all of that. So, and let's not forget that the second half, we're going to actually have a live food demo. And so I am really excited for all of us to be able to enjoy into that. So if you guys would just give me 1 second, I'm going to bring up all of the bios of our lovely panelists. I want to make sure that I have all the background information, and forgive me, I probably should have had this beforehand, but it's been a crazy day. So just give me 1 second and I will see if I can bring that up. And if I can't, what I will have you guys do is just introduce yourselves, but I wanted to be a little formal if I could. So give me 1 second. And I see that we have our lovely Marcus who is joining us as well. So we have all of our panelists here at once. So give me 1 second, you guys. And I'm gonna see if I can bring this on up. All righty. Well, you know what? For the purposes of time and everything like that, it doesn't seem like I'm able to locate it. So what I'm gonna have you guys do, and since this is more informal anyway, I'm gonna have you guys introduce yourselves and provide a little background information for you. I'm so sorry. Typically I always have this together, but again, you know, we don't live in a perfect world, so please forgive me. All right, but I will start off with Miss Brandi Meeks. So please introduce yourself to the audience.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brandi Meeks. I am actually the enterprise manager of Ram's Kitchen. Ram's Kitchen is a local community kitchen in the heart of Highland. We're located inside of 3rd Street Presbyterian Church, 605 North Highland Street. At this kitchen, what we do is we provide healthy, hot, affordable meals to the community and surrounding. We like to provide affordable information, meals, whatever you need, you can come to Rams and we would like to provide that to you. We're working on an educational piece that's in the works now, but that is who I am, and I love what I do.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brandi. And she also works within Contegra as well. So could you give them your formal title with Contegra as well?
So with Contegra, I am the enterprise manager of Healthy Highland. That is the title, but I do all of my work at Ram's Kitchen. So that's what we do. But Contegra, we partner with Contegra, Caramount Health, Bill Health Challenge, and also Blue Cross Blue Shield. Those are our partners with Ram's Kitchen.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brandi, and welcome to our panel.
Glad
All right, next. Oh, awesome. All right, next we have Sequoia Is it Ridley or Ridley?
It's Ridley.
Ridley, wanted to make sure I pronounced it right.
Yeah, so hi guys, my name is Sequoia. I am a registered dietitian. I work with Caramount Health in Gastonia. I'm an employer wellness dietitian, and so I pretty much primarily see employees of the hospital and Gaston County. I provide nutrition counseling for weight loss, meal planning, recipes, low sodium diets, things like that. And I also work with our pregnant employees at the hospital and their spouses.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sequoia. All right, next we have Basheerah, and I cannot pronounce your last name, so please forgive me. Could you tell me how to pronounce your last name?
It's Basheerah Enahora. And no worries. Hi, everyone. It's nice to be here with you all. I am a registered dietitian as well, and I own a private practice, Be Nutrition, LLC. And so I see clients, patients on a daily basis from a whole host of different life stages. I primarily work with anyone from teenage years up to adulthood, across, helping them achieve their health goals and just helping improve their health, from anything from diabetes to heart disease to helping people lose weight or deal with any gastrointestinal issues. And then in my spare time, I'm also working on my PhD in nutrition at UNCG. And I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so very much for joining.
And I say that jokingly because I have no spare time.
I mean, hey, that's all of our life right now during this pandemic, right? Well, thank you so very much. All right, and last but not least, we have Marcus Cyprian, and I think he's kind of moving around. Oh, there he is. We got him. Hi, Marcus.
Hello, how you doing?
Good.
So I'm Marcus Cyprian. I'm with Gaston County Cooperative Extension. Work with school and urban gardens, as well as urban development, community development. And I'm also a professional chef, and glad to be here today, or tonight.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Marcus.
Thank you.
Glad to have all of you guys here. So, all right, one of the main things that we actually discovered in a lot of our data early on in the beginning of the pandemic were some of the particular individuals in certain demographics that were more susceptible to not only getting COVID or being exposed to COVID, but unfortunately dealing with some of the worst elements of it, meaning going, being hospitalized, being on a vent, and unfortunately dying. And we know that within our historically marginalized populations, they were hit the hardest during this time period, whether it was cases or deaths or hospitalizations. And so one of the things that we started realizing in the public health world is a lot of those with pre-existing conditions were, if they were being exposed to COVID and being diagnosed, it was just exacerbating the already, again, those conditions that they were already dealing with. And so with this month being American Diabetes Awareness Month or History Month, this is part of the reason why we wanted to do this particular town hall, because we know during the holidays, especially during Christmas, I would even say Thanksgiving too, in particular cultures, we happen to dive deep into some of the foods that are not necessarily the healthiest for us, right? I know for me in particular, I love my mom's soul food, and some of the times I'm looking at the ingredients knowing that it might not be that healthy, right? But it's like, oh, but this sweet potato pie is just going to be so good, right? Or this mac and cheese with all 4 of the cheeses and all of the, the whole milk and all of that stuff, right? And so that's why I wanted you guys to kind of speak to specifically to that before we get into the safety tips, because that's more an easier fix, right? So for any of you guys who want to speak to that, what would you say is one of the main things you would want the audience to keep in mind when it comes down to celebrating during the holidays, but making in a healthier version? What are some tips or ideas or things that you guys have? And I'll just leave this open to whoever wants to speak.
I'm going to jump right in and say, make sure that you are intaking the correct portion size. Sometimes it's not so much of what we're digesting, but sometimes we can have some of those things that we crave, especially around the holidays. Like everybody loves macaroni and cheese. I mean, that's just something that we just have to have. It's going to be at almost every event, holidays or not, but just make sure that you know your portion size. It's 80-20. Always remember, it's 80% of what you eat and 20% of your daily exercise routine. So I would always say, just make sure that we know the educational piece of portion size, and just make sure that we try to stay focused on portion sizes over the holidays.
Hey, and so on that same note, I was actually going to bring that up. So portion size is probably one of the biggest things that I work on with my clients. And I think one sort of one tip that I could give is to think about my plate. And I wish I had like a little graphic of it. But it's a USDA recommendation. It's called My Plate. You've probably seen it before, but it's basically a visual representation of how you want to create your plate at meal times. And so the idea is that 1/4 of your plate, you want it to be a lean protein. So this could be skinless chicken, it could be turkey, eggs, nuts, seeds, beans, seafood would also go there. So that'll be 1/4 of your plate. Another 1/4 of your plate is for your grain and your higher starch, your higher carbohydrate foods. And so this is for your bread and your rice and your pasta, and like your quinoa and things like that. Potatoes would actually go in that as well because they're so high in carbohydrate. So technically they're a vegetable, but they would go in that category. So you have your first 2 quarters, and then your second quarter of your plate, you want to fill that with fruit and vegetables. And so you want to focus on a lot of your green vegetables. And so your broccoli, your kale, your spinach, your zucchini. And that way you can kind of get the most bang for your buck as far as nutrients. And so I know sometimes for Thanksgiving and Christmas, it's kind of hard because the vegetable dishes are kind of put on the back burner. Like you might have 1 or 2, but sort of just keeping that in mind to fill most of your plate with those vegetables will help.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think we kind of forget about the vegetables. And I think about the holidays more so about, the holiday. Like if we treat Thanksgiving as the holiday or Christmas Day as the holiday, then the majority of the season, we're still eating well. Indulging on those 2 days really isn't going to, significantly impact our health. It's when, it's Thanksgiving and then we continue having leftovers for a week, or Christmas and we have leftovers for a week, or every day there's a holiday party and we're indulging. So you want to just be mindful of, 80% of the time you're still eating well. 20% of the time we're allowing ourselves to indulge. And I think when you think about indulging, think about your favorite things at the holidays. So we can't indulge in everything. So maybe there's a favorite cookie that you just really enjoy and you only see it around the holidays. And so that's your treat. For me, it's red velvet cake. We're making red velvet cake Thanksgiving and Christmas. I will make red velvet cake. So I'm going to indulge in red velvet cake, or you said sweet potato pie earlier, like whatever that thing is, or that 1 or 2 things that are just really special that you typically only see around the holidays, like focus on that. I don't believe in restricting yourself, but I think we do have to be a bit intentional, especially if we're going to be going to holiday gatherings, day after day after day, week after week after week.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Marcus, any tips that you wanted to provide to the audience as well?
No, just I think they pretty much said it all. Just really paying attention to portion sizes and making sure that you're watching your sodium as well. Sodium is a big deal during the holidays. Everything that we typically eat in the South is high in sodium from the meats that we eat, especially pork and some of the things like that, to even greens, depending on what we're flavoring it with, can be high in sodium, and that can lead to problems. We all have been around people just kind of, quote unquote, falling out after eating. And a lot of times that's because, they're putting a lot of pressure on their body, kind of flushing those things out. So yeah, making sure your portion sizes, especially if you're quote unquote eating bad, eat the right bad stuff.
I like hearing that. Eat the right bad stuff. All right. Well, those are great tips. I absolutely do agree when it comes down to portion size. It feels like during the holidays that we have to just have that extra scoop of macaroni and just a little bit more yams to soak up the bread and all of that. But we have to remember we can't just continuously pile our plates and have seconds and thirds that are looking like massive like this. And I'm speaking for myself. So I'm telling myself to do this time around. Well, great. So another thing that I just actually thought of, so in thinking about eating healthy, right? And I love the fact that you all put out there, don't restrict yourself, just be mindful of what you're doing, the portions you have and what you're putting in your mouth. And so many individuals I know who are starting to transition into either being vegan or even being a vegetarian. And, I know that you guys have some background in maybe even making some of these items. I'm not sure if you do, but I would assume so you have. So in thinking about those individuals who are saying, okay, I'm going to my mom's house. She typically cooks this way. I don't want to feel like I can't have anything, but then sometimes they're restricting themselves to all of the grains and the starches that Brandi mentioned, right? So they're like, okay, if I'm vegan, as long as they don't have butter in it, I can eat the mashed potatoes, but then I'm eating the mashed potatoes and the bread and maybe the dressing if it's, doesn't have any meat or anything in it like a vegetarian. So what are some, I guess, tips you would provide to someone who's maybe in that space, but feel like they're not supported in finding healthier items that are also savory? And I'll leave that open for anyone.
Yeah, I would say you may need to bring some dishes with you. That's a difficult thing to try to navigate. Because your most, even vegetables may have meat in them, or the oil, they use bacon grease to cook it. So that's just a difficult thing to navigate. So you may want to try to bring a dish with you, even if it's just a simple side dish or two. That would be number one. Number two, if you're going to have some of those foods, then just, have small portions. Just your digestive system is not going to be used to eating those things. If you have transitioned to being vegan or vegetarian, your digestive system is just not going to be used to eating some of those foods. So try small amounts and see how you feel, and make sure you're staying hydrated too. That'll also just help to activate your digestive enzymes and help you to feel like less bloated, less of all the things that we don't want to experience during the holidays. That's a really difficult situation to navigate.
Yeah, I completely agree. I would say don't be afraid to kind of change it up. So if you are vegan or vegetarian and one of your favorite dishes to make is like a veggie stir fry with like black beans or something, then make that and bring it. And, there might be questions like, who brought this, or, there could be questions. So just kind of prepare for that. But I mean, like she said, it's, you might just have to bring your own so that, this is something that I can eat, that I feel safe eating. And I know that I'm not going to leave hungry, or like you said, Krystle, just kind of, eating bread or whatever. So yeah, bringing your own dish would probably be my advice as well.
And I will also say, when you bring your dish, just make enough for not just you, but to share, to educate, others. Make it fun. They're going to say, well, who brought this? But then you're going to explain to them, this is what I'm transitioning to. Try it. Then, it's going to become, the talk of the holidays, and they're going to want to ask you to bring it to Christmas. So, just, make it fun and share. Make sure you bring enough to share. But again, you definitely want to make sure that you're not sitting there looking, because you don't want to mess yourself up over the holidays by trying to partake in something that that you have not been eating for a while. But like I said, just, bring enough and share, make it fun, make it a conversational piece.
I love that, making it a conversation piece. I can see that being, you're right, the case, especially if everyone likes it. They're going to say, wait, we need this Christmas, Easter, 4th of July. So everybody's going to want to try. And then, like you said, you're exposing someone to something that they may have never even thought to either cook or pick up and try themselves. So I love that idea, Brandi. Awesome. So kind of wanted to go ahead and dive into some of these different ingredient tips that you guys have for, because we've talked about portion size, we've talked about, sodium intake, making sure you're monitoring that. The same would be for sugar as well, obviously. But what are some alternatives to some of those traditional, and I'll just speak for myself, soul food items or culturally based items within, certain demographics that you guys have either tried, explored, or even teach to the community? And I'll just kind of leave that up for anyone to speak to.
I'm going to jump in and say our cauliflower mac and cheese has been the talk of Ram's Kitchen. And because, again, that's just something that we're looking forward to having for the holidays. We didn't know how it was definitely going to, turn out, but we wanted to be creative. So we just substitute the noodles for cauliflower. Just kind of being mindful of the cheeses, and we do still use a little butter. When you're actually trying to turn over a new leaf, you can't just flip. You got to gradually go there. And so with that, that's just that's one of our main things at Ram's Kitchen. We just want to gradually get the community to knowing that there are healthy options with some of the things that you feel like you just have to have. And cauliflower mac and cheese is definitely one of the things that we have, taught the community that you can still have it. But let's just substitute, the noodles for the cauliflower. And it's such a big hit that we had people begging for us to do pans for the holidays. And so that's what we did. We actually are closed on Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving, because we had so many orders of the cauliflower mac and cheese, because they just have to have it for the holidays. So again, that goes back to the conversational piece, making it fun, not being afraid to share it with someone. And then that way, like, who would ever thought cauliflower mac and cheese, like, where's my noodles? But now, they don't want noodles. And another thing, like, just, don't be afraid to step out of the box. You will be definitely surprised and, exposing people to new things. Like, we have eggplant fries and sweet potato fries, if you ever visit Ram's, that comes along with our turkey burgers. And what's so funny is we eat good Tuesday through Thursday. And so we like to have a cheat day on Friday, because like I said, you just can't flip a coin. You want to gradually get there. And it's so funny because when we have regular fries on the menu, they're asking for the sweet potato fries and eggplant fries when we're supposed to be cheating. They want to go back to those fries. So I think, just, not being afraid to step out the box and try new things. That's what I said. But mac and cheese is definitely one, like I said, it's a must at the holidays. And we just, decided to do a different spin on it, and it became a hit.
You.
And I guess to add to that, I think you can create a lot of flavor with herbs and spices. So don't be afraid to load up on garlic powder, onion powder. Smoked paprika gives you a lot of flavor and smokiness when you don't have meat. Just, any herb, you don't limit yourself, especially if you're cooking more plant-based. You've got to give the plants some flavor. So use all the herbs and spices that you would like. Garlic, onion, those are great flavor enhancers. Lemon, lime. Anytime I want to reduce the amount of cheese that I'm using, I use nutritional yeast. So it's just dry deactivated yeast, and it has like a cheddar kind of flavor. So you could still make a cheesy sauce, but just using less cheddar or using less mozzarella and replacing some of that with nutritional yeast. So those are kind of the ideas that I have.
I love the fact that you brought up the point of using fresh spices and herbs, because you're right, that can make a mound of difference in your food. I think that was one of the main things as I entered into college and started my public health degree. We kind of had some of those conversations around nutrition and had individuals speak to us about substitutions. And I remember coming home one time talking to my mom, and I was like, you do not have to use garlic salt. It felt like she used garlic salt, and she would use seasoning salt, and she would use that salt. And I was just like, we do not have, and she suffers from high blood pressure. And so that was one way where somebody was like, how about just fresh garlic? Like go and get the garlic, mince it, whether you're chopping it, whatever you need to do, but utilize that because it'll bring so much flavor too.
Yeah, and I will use sometimes like a liquid smoke or a smoked sea salt, but you only need a little bit just because it has so much robust flavor that you can use a lot less of it than if you were using a regular salt or table salt or sea salt.
Awesome. All right. Any other tips before we go into our last subject and then our live food demonstration? Anything else you guys have? No?
I would probably just give one more thing that was on my mind. So it's not food related, but it's movement related, I guess. So one thing that I sort of think about when thinking about like the holidays, and you're going to have a big meal, a larger meal than you might have on a normal day. So trying to get some sort of movement maybe after, like maybe going on a walk around your neighborhood, and sort of making it fun. So if you have like little kids, or if you have little children in your family, you can kind of make it fun, like going on a walk or playing like a game, just something to kind of get you moving a little bit and get your digestive system moving a little bit. Because it is easy to just kind of sit there on Thanksgiving and like watch the game, and a lot of us have like the itis after we eat so much food. But yeah, maybe just going on like a 10-15 minute walk and try and make it fun with your family members.
I love that you brought that up. You're right. It's always right after the turkey is done. It's like that crash we all feel, right? We're like, oh, Lord, I just want to take a 3-hour nap. So you're right. It does make sense to, even if it's something simple as if the weather doesn't permit, but you have space inside your home, to even put on like a, some type of interactive dance with your, with the kids. They love, TikTok is a thing, right? So find a dance for you guys to move around and kind of just be able to get your juices moving. So I totally agree with that. Thank you so much for that. All right, so the only other thing I wanted to talk to the audience about before we kind of go into the live demonstration was just other ways of being safe, literally being safe during the holidays. So of course, we know with COVID, one of the main things we want the audience to know is different ways that you can actually help to mitigate what's kind of going on with the pandemic. Can include maybe having your gathering outside. Now, I will say I looked at the weather because I was planning to have my dinner outside. Doesn't look like it'll be as favorable for us, but in other areas, around the country where you actually have mild temperatures during Thanksgiving, I think it's a great idea to, see if you can host, whether it's outside in your backyard, if you have a porch that's big enough to host your family. Another factor too would be just trying your best to celebrate with those within your home. We know that's really hard, especially being kind of locked away all of 2020 and then 2021 being in limbo in a sense, right? But it's many ways that you can find ways to connect with your family virtually, just like we're doing this town hall. None of us are in the same space. We're all, here collectively, but we're in different areas. So even encouraging your family members who may have access to Zoom or even Google Teams, where they can kind of just sign on and still be a part of the fun and still be there, but not necessarily physically there. So that's another factor as well. Another thing is masking. If you feel like you're going to have to be in a large setting, which isn't recommended, but if all the family was like, we're doing this in 2021, we can't wait, right? If you know that you're going to be around family members who may not necessarily be vaccinated or have not provided a negative COVID test to ensure that they truly are safe, masking, of course, if you can't social distance. But of course, the biggest thing would be socially distancing, especially because during Thanksgiving, the main thing you're doing is eating, right? So you can't really socially distance. Can't really be really close and not socially distance if you're going to have, yourself eating in front of others. So those are some other tips as far as just being, safe. And to everyone's point about why it's super important to eat healthy and to move is because, again, we want our bodies to be equipped to fight off of these diseases and illnesses that we may come in contact with. And that all starts from having a healthy foundation. So we have to make sure nutrition and physical activity is a normal practice, not just right after holidays and January is here and we're saying we need to get rid of that cookie weight, right? We have to make this an actual practice for everyday life. So I wanted to put that out there. All right, so without further ado, I wanted to go into the fun portion. So of course, we have Marcus and Basheerah here that are going to do their live food demonstration. So I will start with whoever is ready. I'm going to kind of give you guys the reins, just whoever's ready to start, and just let us know what you're cooking. Some of the maybe alternative ingredients that you decided to go ahead and feature for the audience, and whatever other tips you have. So whoever's ready, I'll let you start.
I can start. I am going to make some quick roasted collards. And I think we talked earlier that typically around this time when we do even make vegetables, it's seasoned with meat and oils like bacon grease that are really high in saturated fat, which increases our risk for heart disease. And so these quick roasted garlic collards are roasted, and I'm using smoked sea salt and smoked paprika and garlic to give them a lot of flavor without using any of those oils that are less healthy for us. So, there's no ham hock or fat bat in these collards. So, anytime that, we are eating more vegetables that have been prepared in a healthy way, it's just helping us to live healthy, manage our blood sugar, reduce our risk of heart disease, and manage our weight as well. So super easy recipe, takes you about 30 minutes to make from start to finish. So I have already washed and prepared some collards and just chopped them. So this was just one bunch of collards. And then the only other ingredient you need are garlic and the spices and the smoked sea salt. So I'm just gonna rough chop a couple of cloves of garlic. And again, any herb, any spice, just gonna give us a ton of flavor where we don't need to then include meat. So anytime that you're making vegetables and you're like, oh, these just don't have enough flavor, you wanna pile on garlic, onion, and all types of herbs. You can also use garlic powder or onion powder, but the fresh vegetable, the fresh herb really gives you a lot of flavor with a much smaller amount. All right, so normally I would chop these up even more, but to save time, just as I'm demonstrating. So So once you have everything chopped, you're just gonna place it in a roasting pan. Obviously, if you're making this for Thanksgiving, you're probably gonna have a larger pan than this. So I just did one little batch. You probably, hopefully, if you're doing this, you would already have preheated your oven to 400 degrees. So we're just gonna roast these on 400 degrees. And because we're roasting at a higher temperature, I'm gonna use avocado oil because it has a higher smoke point so that the vegetables don't burn. They don't get a burnt flavor when they're roasting. So about 1.5 tablespoons of avocado oil goes on for about 1 bunch of collards. You just want the collards to be kind of wet, and I'll show you what they look like once I get the all the seasonings in there. And then you add in your garlic. Again, I would have rough chopped them a little bit more. And then I'm gonna add on some onion powder, some garlic powder. You do not have to limit yourself on onion powder and garlic powder. Some smoked paprika. Again, add on as much as you'd like. Don't limit that. Some fresh black pepper. And then, because we need a little kick, I'm gonna do a little bit of red chili pepper and just a little dash of cayenne pepper. And then I have some applewood smoked sea salt. Again, any smoked sea salt is just gonna give you a ton of flavor without you needing to use a lot. I'm just gonna sprinkle on a little bit. And then what I'll do is I'll mix this all together. And once I've got that combined, I will actually go back and season it again with everything except for the sea salt. Because you just really want to make sure all the leaves have all that seasoning on there. That's what's going to give them a lot of flavor. And because you're roasting, you're also increasing the sweetness of the vegetable too. Any vegetable has, even a bitter vegetable has a little bit of natural sweetness. So when you're roasting, you're increasing that natural sweetness, and it's going to make it less bitter. So again, I would just go back through, season everything all over again, cover it with foil, pop it in the oven for about 25 minutes. And when it is done, you're going to just get this lovely caramelized greens. Again, I would, chop the garlic up so that it, really infuses a lot of flavor into the dish. And you can see that you really just want the leaves to be wet with the avocado oil. So you see some sheen on the leaves, then you've got enough oil. If you don't, then you probably need a little bit more of the avocado oil. And again, go back through, season it again with garlic powder, with onion powder, with all the smoked paprika that you would like. Taste as you go. That's really important as you're cooking. So, taste a raw leaf. If it doesn't feel like it has enough seasoning for you, add on some more. Don't limit yourself on the seasonings. But that's just a really quick and easy way to make collards without using, these meats that are higher in saturated fat, without using a lot of salt, but still getting a ton of flavor.
Oh my God, that looks so good, by the way. I wish I was over there so I could get a bowl, because collard greens is absolutely one of my favorite vegetables. So, oh my
and normally, like, you're making collards and you're at the stove for hours trying to cook everything down and get all the flavor in there. These are ready in, like I said, 30 minutes.
That is amazing.
It's super fast.
That is one thing I'm dreading for next week with hosting. I feel like the collard greens are probably going to be the bane of my existence on Thanksgiving.
Hours. Yes.
It's going to take, but now that I have this, great recipe, I think 30 minutes for greens.
30 minutes.
God.
Yeah,
oh
30
God.
minutes. Yeah, so the full recipe is on my website, bnutritionco.com. So you can just go onto the website and search collard and you'll find it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So before we get to Marcus, I just wanted you to kind of maybe just give a little bit more information about your organization and everyone that, everything that you guys do and different ways that you help the community so they can know all about Be Nutrition.
Yeah, so I work with people generally one-on-one. in counseling sessions. So I start off just really understanding their history, their full medical history, and all of their dietary habits. And then I put together a customized plan for them to get them, to their health goals. So whether that is reducing their A1C if they have diabetes, or losing weight if they're interested in losing weight, or if they have heart disease, improving their cholesterol. So it really just depends on where the person is, what health state they're in. I put together customized plans for them. And that's everything from foods to focus on eating, to helping them navigate meal planning, to just helping keep them accountable to goals that we set. So typically I'm meeting with clients, for some it might be every 2 weeks, for some it might be once a month, just depending on where they are in their health journey, just helping to provide that accountability, and also helping them navigate any roadblocks that they might have and trying to reach their health goals, or just as their health continues to change and improve, just helping to guide them along the way. So all day, every day, I sit and talk to people about what they're eating, how they're eating, and just helping them navigate that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Everyone give her a hand clap for that lovely presentation. I can't wait.
You are welcome.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, next we will have Marcus. And again, just kind of let the audience know what you're cooking, the alternatives you have for this dish, and any other tips you want to share.
Okay. So today we are making a couple of things because I thought I had a little bit more time, but we'll just run through them real quick. So the first thing that we're making is a classic during the holidays, which is cornbread. So we're making a version of cornbread that is slightly healthier than the version that we normally have with the bacon drippings and cracklings and all of that kind of stuff in it. So we're just going to run through the recipe really quick. And for all of these, we'll run through the recipe, and then at the very end, I'll give information on how to get the recipes online. So first thing first, this is the Guiltless Cornbread. I've already mixed the dry ingredients. So what we have done with this is taken out some of the fat. We typically use something like buttermilk in these recipes. We're not using buttermilk, we'll use 2% milk. And we replaced the quote unquote bad fat with a little coconut oil, which is a little bit easier on the body, easier to digest, and vegan and gluten-free, all that kind of stuff. We're also, instead of using a cornbread mix, we're using pure cornmeal and gluten-free all-purpose flour. So those are the substitutions we've kind of made with this to make things a little better. So my lovely assistant, Miss Alicia here, is going to go ahead and pour our cornmeal in and our gluten-free AP flour. We also added some sugar. That's to give the cornbread a little more texture. We added that to the milk, and she's gonna pour that in, and we're just gonna mix it up. We're gonna make it real easy. We're also gonna add our coconut oil, which gives a good mouthfeel and makes it not be so dry. She's just gonna mix that up. And as she's mixing that, in the meantime, we are going to see if we can see this here. We're going, if I can find my knife, we're going to make some collard greens. I know we already had them, but we'll do them just a tad bit of a different way. We're gonna turn our pot on. And so what we're trying to do is actually build flavor. So we've already got some some onions and some yellow bell peppers cut, and this is going to serve as our base. So we're just going to caramelize those things. So we're going to take a little grapeseed oil, which is a great alternative to olive oil. We're going to add a couple of tablespoons of that to our pot. And then we're just going to dump in all of our onions, and we're going to let that cook kind of slow. So the whole point of this, if I can move this, you can unplug that. Yeah. Kind of the whole point of this, as was alluded to earlier, is to use herbs and different other flavoring methods. Hope everyone can see. Can everyone see? Clap your hands if you can.
Yes, we can see.
Okay, so what we want to do is caramelize these onions. We want the sugar that is inside these onions to be brought out, and that's going to serve as our base for our collard greens. Also going to add a couple cloves of garlic. And we're just going to not even let this saute. We're going to turn it down some and just let it sweat a little bit, because we don't want anything to burn. We actually want the onions to caramelize rather than kind of sear. So we'll do that, and it could take up to 15 minutes, 20 minutes to get them nice and caramelized. Take your time. You don't want the burnt onions in here, because it'll make your final product bitter. And so as that's caramelizing, we're still building flavor. Here's one. We're still building flavor. And so we're gonna add some herbs, some dry herbs, some spice blend here. And we're also going to, thank you. We're also going to add a little honey, about a tablespoon, to help those onions along a little bit. So again, we're cooking slow, and you'll see these bubbles. When you see these small bubbles from the onions start to form, you're then going to add a little chicken base. So I like to use Better Than Bouillon. I'm not they don't sponsor me or anything like that, but I love it. You add a little bit of that. If you're vegan, they have a vegan version of this with just roasted vegetables, also with roasted garlic. And as that cooks and starts to get happy, oh my goodness, I wish y'all could smell this. Yes, so we're gonna let that cook, and normally we would let that slow cook for 7 to 8 minutes, and then we get real happy. And I'm gonna add cooking wine, but normally I would use something like a cream sherry or a medium bodied red wine. And then we're gonna deglaze our pan and get all that goodness off. And we're gonna allow that to cook down. We'll let the alcohol cook off. The alcohol cook off, all the way off. And as that begins to cook down, now normally I would do that twice. I would allow that alcohol to cook down and then add a little bit more wine. The wine adds a depth of flavor, which is what we're trying to get to with the flavor profile of our greens. And so now, sorry, I'm off camera, almost. Now we're gonna add, now, some people would call this blasphemy, but not me. I actually prefer this to pork. These are smoked turkey necks. So they're not super duper healthy, but they are super duper flavorful. They have less sodium most of the time, depending on the source. So we add that along with our water, and we let that simmer for about 20 minutes. So that gets happy. We add our greens, and then we end up with a product that hopefully looks a little something like this.
Ooh.
So here are our collard greens, nice and tasty. If anybody would like to taste some, I'm at 400 West 5th Street. Come and get them because I don't know what I'm going to do with them. But these are what your collards taste like. Oh my goodness, taste and look like. So these are the collards. So real quick, I got a couple more minutes. Yeah, go ahead and talk about it. So we also went ahead and made our guiltless cornbread. So these are our cornbread muffins. If anybody wants to taste them, I'll be here for another 30, 40 minutes. So come and get it. And something that I won't have time to do a demo for is the sweet potato casserole. Let me move this away from the glare. So sweet potato casserole. What we did with the sweet potato casserole was we also used coconut oil in it. Rather than brown sugar or refined white sugar, we use maple syrup. And for the topping, we used date sugar. Now, it's not necessarily as bad as the refined white sugar. It does have a lower glycemic, or it's lower on the glycemic index, but you still can't eat a whole lot of it. So to echo what everybody else was saying, portion, 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 you have to make sure, even in the cooking process, that you're making sure that you're not overloading with the bad stuff. You can always use herbs, especially fresh herbs that still have those essential oils in them. Those fresh herbs, the flavor. You also use spice blends that don't have a whole lot of sugar or salt in them. And that is pretty much it. I don't know if people have any, let's see how much time, 5 more minutes. So as an added bonus to this, you can go to or Google the My Kitchen Cupboard, and that's cupboard with a K, KUPBOARD.com. Go to the menu and go to the recipe book, and you'll find all 3 of these recipes on that website at the bottom of the recipe book page. And that is all I got. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Marcus. Everyone give him a hand for 3 amazing side dishes. I mean, I feel like I might need to make a ride on down to see you right quick.
And a quick shout out to Miss Alicia Weaver Brown here, a great friend and schoolmate of mine. She stepped in and helped me out with this. Couldn't have done it without her.
Awesome. Thank you, Alicia. We really appreciate your assistance with this. We do. Oh my goodness. I don't know about everybody else, but I'm hungry now. I mean, hey, this is where we're at with it. Just any closing remarks from you guys in relation to your organizations, programs you may have going on that you want the audience to be aware of, websites where they can go and find all of this information, be able to reach out to you guys. Just, I want to give you time to reiterate that so that they can get that information. So I'll start with Brandi.
Well, I'm hungry as well. And thank you for the collards tips. I'm definitely going to try the baking them, and also going to look at Marcus' recipe as well. But we did have main entrees that were demonstrated this evening, and I wanted to throw out a quick and tasty dessert. I know that with the holidays, we're going to have pound cakes. We're going to have sweet potato pie. We're going to have banana pudding. But if you want to stay focused, I can give you a quick treat. That's apple slices. If you could go to the picture with the cooler treats on them. You need four simple, you actually need four simple, and I thought I had it on there, but I guess I didn't. So you need four simple ingredients: apple slices, Nutella, vanilla yogurt, and chocolate chips. And it's just as simple. You can do it with the kids. You want a healthy treat. You take your apple slices, you drizzle them with your Nutella. You also drizzle them with your vanilla yogurt and sprinkle chocolate chips. And you might not have sweet potato pie. You might not have banana pudding, but it would definitely satisfy that sweet tooth with not all that you would receive in pies and cakes over the holidays. Also, don't be afraid, cut up you some fruit. It gives you that natural sweetness. Still remember, portion size is the key to everything. Even if you're eating healthy, if you're eating, to satisfy that craving, remember that portion is everything. I am going to put up our peanut butter ball recipe that consists of raw oats, peanut butter, honey, vanilla, chia seeds, flax seeds, and chocolate chips. You take all those ingredients, you combine them, you roll them into a ball, and put them in the refrigerator, let them chill, and grab one and go. It is an excellent source of protein. And again, it satisfied that sweet tooth. Will it be your sweet potato pie? It will not, but it will satisfy that sweet tooth and help you to remain focused over the holidays. I will put that recipe up the beginning of December. It's a great, with a lot of the events that we'll be going to over the holiday parties, it's just, you can make a batch and take them and there'll be a hit. There's so many different, instead of chocolate chips, you can use raisins, you can use cranberries, you can be as creative as you can, but you don't bake it. And all those things are healthy. So again, this was very, very informative. Thank you for the opportunity to share. If you are available, please stop by Ram's Kitchen. We're open Tuesday through Friday from 11 a.m. into 3 p.m. Inside of 3rd Street Presbyterian Church. All our meals are $4 and $5, and they're home cooked healthy meals. And again, you might not get full the first time, but remember, it's portion control. And once you come and partake and have lunch with us a few times, you'll know that you can get healthy on the correct portion size. Again, thank you for this opportunity. I truly enjoyed myself.
Awesome. Thank you. And I'll echo what Brandi have said. I've been to Rams many a times. I love to patronize our local, especially those businesses of color. So the first time I heard about Ram's Kitchen and everything you guys have got going on, you've got a turkey burger craving constantly from me. So I'm always going there for their turkey burger. So just a little quick plug. All right. Next we'll have Sequoia.
Yeah, so definitely thank you for inviting me for this. And definitely thank you to Basheerah and Marcus for your tips. I think the collard greens, I'm definitely going to try those roasted collard greens. And just sort of a quick note. So Caramont Health, the place that I work, the hospital, we are now contracted with Gaston County. And so, if you are an employee of Gaston County, you'll probably be seeing me pretty soon in the new year. So doing like lunch and learns, and one-on-one counseling. And so stay tuned for some of those emails. But yeah, thank you definitely for having me on this panel. I enjoyed it.
Awesome. I'm so glad that you said that, because there was a question that came in that I totally forgot about that asked about whether or not you service all of the Gaston County residents or people within the county. So it's good to hear that you can
Yeah.
come right into the health department and help us out.
Yes,
So that's
definitely.
great. Thank you so much. All right, next is Basheerah.
Yes, thank you for having me. This was a fun night. I learned a lot as well, and I'm looking forward to trying all those yummy recipes myself. I guess just in the spirit of National Diabetes Month, I would say for anyone who's having trouble managing their diabetes, feel free to go to my website. You can book a session there or a package of sessions. But if you're just struggling to manage your blood sugars, please reach out because you may not see the immediate effects of having poorly managed blood sugars, but if it goes for a long time, that could just end up with so many other complications, from kidney disease to poor eye health to even having a limb amputated. So the time is now. I would say don't wait until January to start focusing on that. Really start getting that under control and managing your blood sugars, and have a wonderful holiday season.
Yay. Thank you. And another good thing I'm so glad that you talked about was the fact of, again, just even the side effects of what you could kind of deal with, right? And how you have to start now. And so I love the fact that all of you guys were so open and just being able to provide, those resources to the community so they can know, hey, it's not going to be something that's super easy. I think a lot of times you see something on TV and you're like, I can do that. And then you might get into it, whether it's a fitness routine or even a diet, right? Especially some of these fad diets that you see out here that are not great, by the way. And you're like, oh, I just cannot maintain this. What is going on? So I love the fact that all of you guys have spoken to just having grace and knowing that as long as you're just starting with one simple thing here and there, you'll be able to eventually see that change.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think it's not even that it takes an overhaul. I think people truly don't understand what impacts their blood sugar. So they think, oh, I just need to cut out all carbs. And that's not necessarily the case. It's just really understanding what foods have the greatest impact on your blood sugar and managing your portions around that and balancing your plate with other nutrients to help minimize how much your blood sugar rises. So that's a lot of the conversations that I have with clients in consultations, is really helping them understand that and understand how their blood sugar fluctuates and then what they could do to minimize all those fluctuations. And I forgot to mention, I see clients virtually. So I do have an office in Charlotte, but since the pandemic started, I've transitioned to seeing clients virtually, and I'm in network with Blue Cross Blue Shield. If you have Blue Cross Blue Shield, most plans cover at least 3 visits at 100%. Some plans cover unlimited visits.
Wow, I did not know that. That's great to know that they're willing to do that. That's amazing. And one other thing I did want to mention before we go to Marcus too, is we know that the holidays creates a lot of overeating, right? So when we talked about portion sizes, we have to remember that, again, we're looking in January to go to the gym and get rid of that cookie wake, that we don't wait until Easter to have the ham and the macaroni and everything else and create those same patterns. Because we know with COVID, it's allowed a lot of us to do a lot of happy eating. Me in particular, I'm gonna speak for myself. I'm gonna tell on myself. So, and that's where we've seen a lot of weight gain and a lot of, different health issues that we have to tackle. So again, like they've said, portion sizes, you guys. All right, and last but not least is Mr. Marcus.
Okay, I'm sorry. What are we doing again?
Just telling the audience just any additional information you want them to know about any of the programs that you're doing. You can speak specifically to the garden that you're doing with Highland or anything with Cooperative Extension, and how they can get to your information and be able to reach out to you if they want to contract you or get some information.
Okay, great. So again, I work for Gaston County Cooperative Extension, and portion of my job is working with school gardens. We're in several of the Title I schools in the county. If you have relationships with any other Title I schools and you think that they might benefit from having a school garden, you can contact me at the Extension office in Dallas. You can go to Gaston County Cooperative Extension in your Googles, and you'll see my name. You can email me. Marcus.Cyprian at GastonGov.com. Also, I work with the Highland Cultivators and the Highland Youth Garden in trying to produce an entrepreneurship enterprise with the youth. Currently working with the RISE program. We have had the opportunity and the pleasure to provide some herbs and things for Ram's Kitchen, and hopefully later on we'll be able to provide vegetables and other things, and kind of connect the youth with the community to resolve issues, whether it's health disparities, socioeconomic setbacks, and things of that nature. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Marcus. I love the fact that you are working with the youth, because I think one of the main things in my previous work, in my prior position as a health consultant, we developed trainings around gardening and healthy eating that we would provide to the teachers to give to the students, right? And a lot of times we would always have some of the teachers saying, yeah, we have to do this curriculum, but that's green. I don't want to eat it. I can't see myself eating it. And it all starts with the behaviors we have as parents, as mentors, as teachers, as just anyone that's in these children's lives. We have to mirror what we want them to eat. We can't say, hey, McDonald's is bad and don't go here and don't eat honey buns. But yet, if you're on your lunch break and you're bringing in McDonald's with a huge Coke and not the water that Basheerah said you have to have in order to hydrate yourself, we have to be the example we want to see, right? So I love that.
And just one more thing, we also do culinary classes with the youth, because one of the things that we found is sort of a barrier for a lot of kids is that one, they've never really tasted the food, and number two, even if they like the food, they don't know how to prepare it. So we're over the summer, I've had the opportunity to do several culinary sessions with the kids from the Highland group, as well as some other kids that have been involved in 4-H and things like that through Extension. So if you know youth who would benefit from that, please contact me. Also, if you know people that would love to mentor, we're in absolute desperate need of mentorship. It's not there. And so if you know people that would make a good mentor, that's beyond reproach, and that can pass a background check, please let me know.
Definitely, for sure. We need that. You're right. We do need those mentors for the youth. So anyone who knows, please make sure you reach out to Marcus. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. This was so lovely. It just felt great to have such a lighthearted version of a town hall, even though it's around COVID. It's still one of the best ones we've had, just because of the fun. And oh my God, these recipes, I cannot wait to start them. So I want to thank everyone who was able to join us on live stream through our county's Facebook page, and we will see you guys later. Have a great evening.